conservation district. It's great. You know, you're also entertaining that for other developments. That's wonderful to diversify your portfolio. What else have you done? You've secured new water rights. Instead of, like a lot of municipalities throughout the state of Idaho, when you have a desire for more water rights, they just file an application and they try to get more water rights from the Department of Water Resources. Your water rights that you've been securing for the last 15 years have been water rights that you have purchased, meaning you're not creating a greater need, you're finding willing sellers who want to get rid of their water rights, and you're paying fair market share for those. And the important thing about those is not only are you getting those water rights, but they're senior water rights, meaning that they are well positioned for the city if there's ever a curtailment that occurs and the Department of Water Resources says, hey, everything after 1985, we need to turn your water off, or you need to cut back. And that's some things we've seen, like in Jerome and other places, where that's been a real concern for the municipalities. The City of Mountain Home has been proactive in getting those. Right now, you have over 16,000 gallons a minute of water rights for the summer period where your demand's the highest. That's more, it's about double of what your maximum day demand is currently. So again, very well positioned in terms of your needs for water rights. It's also more than the sum of all your wells. Right now they can put out about 12,000 gallons a minute if you're looking at just your potable wells. From a system, you want to be able to provide your maximum day demand with your largest well offline. So you're also positioned well for that, and you have been proactive in terms of identifying future well locations and putting the ball in motion to be able to have those online. You brought well 16 on a couple of years ago. We talked about well 17, doing subsiding and doing test well there. So again, the city has been pretty proactive in staying ahead of the curve to be able to accommodate growth. What about the long-term drawdown that's occurring in the aquifer? I know that's a concern. Yes, it's a concern. The city is, again, well positioned for that. Your wells are deep. They're designed to be able to accommodate continued drawdown. You know, can that happen for 150 years? Probably not. But are you well positioned for the next 20, 40, 50 years? Yes, you're well positioned. You might need to lower a pump from time to time to be able to accommodate that. You've done that already. You've been experiencing these drawdowns over time. It's important to recognize the city as a whole makes up a relatively small percentage of the overall demand for the aquifer. Eventually, you're going to want to get things into balance as a basin solution. The city has been playing their part in being proactive, getting senior water rights, and planning for the future. So I guess with that kind of background, do you have any questions or you'd like to have me address?
Councilman Buddy? You've been helpful in some of our aquifer recharge projects. What's your thoughts on aquifer recharge?
Aquifer recharge is a great solution. The more you can get into your groundwater, the better. And the thing about your surface water supply is it's not something you can rely on. And so anytime you can get into the groundwater, that's going to be there for a long time. So it's a great way to have an overall positive benefit for the city aquifer. Yeah, keep it up.
In terms of the growth that we're experiencing, I think you had an opportunity to talk to Rich, and I don't know if you've talked to Brock over here, but our plans for EDU growth of 600 in the next little while. Mm-hmm. Can you speak on that? You said we're well positioned for growth, but maybe a little more specific.
You figure about a well is going to a new well is going to provide about 1,500 connections plus or minus. So depending on how much you get out of that well. So it's just figure about every time you add 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 connections, you're going to be looking at putting in another well. So as long as you stay, and right now you're ahead of that curve. You've got your declining balance, you've got plenty of growth and plenty of time to get your next well in service before it will be needed. If you were talking 10,000 showing up next year, I'd be concerned. But 1,000 over 5 years, not a problem.
Although the city is planning for another well here soon, what can we afford to do with where we're at right now? Maybe that's a Rich question or you.
1,300 right now. BDUs what we have is somewhere about 14, 15. We're right around it.
Left open, correct?
Correct.
And then we'll add to that for the next year.
Yeah, somewhere right in there.
The previous planning document said 1850 was what you had. So if you and you've been it's been a couple years, so you're right around there, around that 1500.
And one final question on my end. You mentioned curtailment, and I guess just for the citizens, can you speak of what curtailment means for domestic use?
Yeah, so typically it means restricting outside irrigation. So typically there's steps you take before you go very drastic. If you a curtailment plan, like the city might adopt, might have steps and triggers. So when your demand gets so high, we're going to go to alternating irrigation on a few odd, even days. So, and that's the kind of thing you might do. And then if it's severe, then you might take a more drastic measure. Maybe it's like, hey, I'm really concerned we're not going to water the parks. Hopefully the parks department's not here. but it's you're always going to have the ability to drinking water. That's never going to get curtailed.
Sorry. So the majority of the municipal water really is going for lawns and irrigation.
Yeah, overall, I would say is 6/7 about maybe
Oh, wow.
6/7 of deal with summer irrigation is good. So in your average summer is going to be maybe around 6,000 gallons a minute, 7,000 gallons a minute during peak periods. Your winter is going to be about 1,000 gallons a minute. So one well can really supply all the city potable needs.
This might be a super broad question, but imagine 600 new homes coming in. If this council were to implement a policy similar to the xeriscaping in the front yards only, with a regular green grass in the backyard, what kind of effect might that have on our water
It
system?
kind of depends on the size of the lots, but I mean it's directly proportional to your area. So if you cut out half your area, you're probably going to reduce your demand by 30-40%. So that will go a lot further for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Stokes?
James, could you speak on our sewer system and then the fact that we take that water and put it on the farms? Are you knowledgeable on that?
Yeah, so definitely right now your sewer is fully reused in the sense it's being applied to the farms. I saw an agenda, I think on the consent agenda, there's an item for the city planning study. That would focus a lot on looking at other alternatives. So that is really long term, that's part of your portfolio as well. You could easily displace a well, possibly two, by taking that water and putting it back into your system. Treat it up nice, take it to the golf course, your parks, your green spaces, even on lawns.
Councilman Bundy?
Real quick, and I'm sure that you guys both of you are talking about, when we say that water goes on the farms, it's a specific farm owned by the city, what we grow some alfalfa, that's used for a specific purpose, not just farms in general.
Exactly, it's permitted, and there's regulations, there's reports done on it.
It's a very specific farm.
There's annual reports that are prepared, soil, crop, a lot of things go into place to just assure the public safety.
Councilman Payne?
I'd just like to thank James for coming tonight to give us this information. I've worked with James a lot over the last 16 years till there, and he's quite knowledgeable in everything he's doing for us. Thanks, James.
Thanks, James.
Appreciate it, man. Alrighty, we'll run down to item number 2, recognize the person in the audience that would like to get up and speak for 3 minutes. Would anybody like to get up and speak for 3 minutes?
Anything
Come
on
on
the
down.
agenda,
Do I do it from here or up there?
Come up here.
I'm in the hot seat.
Yeah.
make sure you tell us your name.
I have to do that? Is Chief of Police here? We may have some problems after I say my name out loud. So, folks, my name's Doyle Oakey. I just recently moved to town, but as you're gonna find out, you mind if I stand up? Because that's my style, and I get nervous. So if I start to cry or something.
You're good.
So just to let y'all know, I'm from Idaho, 8 generations. My family came in from Arkansas and Kentucky into Cache Valley, Bear Lake in 1888. Some of them moved here, some of them moved to Madison, Manan, Fremont counties. Took us 40 years to get back. I was a state champion football player. I twice beat your guy here, just so you know. Okay, and
Rub it in.
by 1993, I was very fortunate. I received a full ride scholarship to the Ohio State University, go Buckeyes, where I did a master's and PhD in economic development. My focus over the past 40 years has been international economic development primarily. I'm still involved. You guys really make me nervous. And the reason why I'm saying this is a message about my home state. And I'm trying to get you to listen on the basis of how do we get families to stay? Because I had to leave. Over the course of my lifetime and 100 years of my family, less than 80% of my family remains in Madison County. My parents for the past 40 years have said, when are you coming back? And for 40 years we tried. And we just couldn't do it. We didn't have land. I'm a Ricks, but I came from the second wife, okay? We didn't have land, we didn't have capital, I didn't have a good education, I'm sorry, Madison's a good place, but my education wasn't great. And we didn't have but our own labor. So the push out for me and my family was economics. So my message to you guys in support of the Turner Depot. We in this state have taken advantage of this state for a long time. This is a state I love. I'm serious when I say that. I can sing the state song. Bet you 90% of you can't. We need bureaucratic guardrails, smart ones. Zero-scaping I like. I don't want to be oppressive. We gotta have some guardrails, and we need to improve the education. A fight I made at Madison, Fremont County for 5-6 years when we were there. And finally, comfortable, affordable homes for the primary economic development center. And I love agriculture. I farmed with my family for 20 years. From the time I was 8 years old, I was farming. I know we gotta have it, but it's only 2% of the economy and labor. 2%, guys. We have got to build homes that are going to allow people to come in, wanna stay, and get an education. Love my state. Thanks. My wife runs a hospital. Sorry she had to leave.
Thanks, Tom.
See ya.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to get up? Hearing none, we'll run down.
No. I'm just slow, that's all. Linda Bennett, 220 East, 15th North. I haven't seen, well, I've seen a really small sketch of the Thunderbolt. I'd like to know, first of all, what's the width of the roads? What did you come up with on your adjustment?
They're the same.
Pardon me? So it's still, what is it, 36 feet?
Councilman, they're the same as what they were.
36 feet.
Yep.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for working with the developer. I think something needs to be done with that field. As you know, I wasn't very happy with it in the beginning. You're back to the number that was originally, almost number that was originally thought of in 2008, so I appreciate that. I don't like the width of the roads. I think that's going to cause problems with traffic, garbage cans, kids running out, double park. I mean, that is going to be an issue. I'd like to see a couple more feet if we could get in there. You've already addressed the water. I think if you had zero-scaping in the front, that would be a much better solution than having a landscape, because if the developer is not going to put in sprinkler systems, that landscape is going to end up being zero-scape anyway with 3-foot weeds. So I think that should be something that's in the development. And I'd like to see, I don't know how many of those are gonna be 2-story homes. I would like to make sure that we get single level homes for the accessibility. I think that's important. And I like the idea that this is a much better quality looking home, better yards, it's gonna be more livable, but I still think it needs some adjustments on there. And right now I can't think of anything else, but I'm sure there's a few issues in there. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, run down to item number 3. Council, anything really quick?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Stokes?
I wanna give a shout out to Chris DeVore and the Mountain Home Arts Council for their summer concert series. It was well attended. And a shout out to Miguel, cause the park looks good.
Woo-hoo. All righty.
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan?
My comments, I'd like to just say ahead of time to the 3 developers, I don't know who all you are, but I assume you're out there, I'm sorry. That I would highly encourage you to do the xeriscaping in the front yards. And I don't know that this council's prepared to mandate that, but please consider it in development if you get approved.
Okay. Run down to item number 4, the consent agenda. Councilman, do you have anything on there that you wanna talk about, discuss further, pull?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Bundy?
there's no council comments. I would like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
The motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan? Aye. Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Run down to item number 5, discussion decision on recommendation for planning and zoning for annexation and zoning R3 with a planned unit development, preliminary plat for Thunderbolt Landing. Councilman?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Bundy?
This has been a good process. I think I don't think any plan is perfect, but this one I think is pretty good. And the concern about the multi-level, when we sell most of the R2 and R3 lots, that's up to the buyer and the builder, what size house they build. So I'm sure that we'll see in that standard subdivision a mix of single level and double level like you see down in a lot of the other subdivisions. It should match and look pretty good. I appreciate the contractor's ability to work with us. And we've got consistent property lines around the edge, and I think it's a nice flow. And I also appreciate the fact that in the Thunderbolt plan there is, and I agree, I think we're getting to the point where xeriscaping is gonna be the norm. I think a lot of the common areas, if I'm not mistaken, I saw Jane somewhere, common areas are all xeriscape, correct? For the most part.
Low water use, yes.
Low water use, thank you. So that's already something that we're looking at for the future, and I appreciate that. So I'd like to thank you for all the good work you've done, and I know we called you down here for a couple extra meetings, and you were very gracious and did it. And worked with us on the phone through our community development person, so I appreciate that, so thank you. But so for the time being, I don't have any further questions on it, but I just want to thank you for all you did.
We always talk about government, and it can be messy and slow sometimes, as Councilman Bundy would say, right?
Sometimes it can do the right thing.
Yeah. I appreciate everyone taking the time to let the council know their concerns. And what I think is the product in the end is something that everyone can live with. I know the councilmen worked real hard with everybody, and they spent a lot of time trying to make everybody happy. And we know government doesn't make everybody happy, but I think the product that they've come up with is something that hopefully it's a great compromise. So that's what I have.
Man,
Councilman McCain.
I was involved with a lot of this, and I'm glad for both Brock and Jen's help here getting this all together. That there was give and take on both sides. We needed to, but we do need the housing to where I'm gonna make a recommendation to approve planning and zoning's annexation of zoning R3 with a planned unit development, primary plat, Thunderbolt Landing.
Second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing now, I'll call for the question. Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Bundy?
Aye.
Run down to item number 6, items removed from the consent agenda, there were none. We'll run down to discussion decision on moving forward with the creation and hiring of a public relations specialist, action item. Brock had approached me, and he's kind of buried, and so we're trying to morph this into something, with the communications piece, but then also, with a slight, what do you call it, planning and zoning creation. So you wanna kinda explain it a little bit?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So, as you know, I'm over the planning and zoning and also economic development segments of our city government. And having someone that can help with the marketing and some economic development projects would be extremely beneficial. Especially when it comes to doing public outreach, outreach that I haven't been doing really well at, as far as downtown and doing other things. But I think that there is enough demand with everything that we're at, especially with everything going on as far as our housing, which has been taking up a significant amount of my bandwidth, that we can add someone else to our team that will not only provide benefits as far as public affairs and being a public informational resource for the entire city, but someone who can also step in with economic development practices as well.
Councilman, got any questions? Councilman Brennan?
After reading through the job description, I'm curious if I think you mentioned that there might be some slight changes to this here in the future, but public relations specialist, and there's only like one bullet that says aid the community development director in administrative tasks. Is there any more specifics we can add to that show like that maybe a third of this position or a half or some fair number can truly be dedicated to his team? I hesitate to think that our city needs a full-time public relations specialist. I guess that's based on previous observations.
Okay.
But
Yeah, if Brock is gonna get Tiff the job for Ameriban, and Ameriban will be great at Brock's additions.
Mayor,
Councilman McCain?
you are gonna add some stuff to this then, Brock?
Yes,
For
sir.
you?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm gonna go over it with the mayor.
I agree completely. They need somebody have more stuff in here. I'm assuming that this person will be underneath you for this position.
It'll be under the mayor, but then it'll work for Brock.
Okay, work for Brock would be under you, okay. Alright.
Mayor,
Councilman Brennan?
can we table this until we are able to see the full scope of duties, since we're bringing on another employee and another set of benefits, and possibly a different pay grade? Maybe I move forward with trying to get the job description and the pay grade and the bullets, but, table it for a short time.
You guys, it's your decision. Councilman Stokes?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanna give my input a little bit. I think we do need a public relations specialist, but I also don't think there's a full-time job there. I'd like to actually change the job title itself. I'd like to see it, be a PR specialist and council special projects. Because there's some stuff I'm working on where I could use some help in this position. And I'd also like it to be changed to an appointed position, if that makes any sense.
So the department head.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Hang on a second,
Sure.
hold on a second, I'll write this down.
And that would make it so that there's some council oversight, since they would help this council and future councils.
Councilman Bundy?
I think Councilman Stokes brings up a good point that as part-time council members, we don't have the staff. My concern, if there is a concern, is the legality of hiring staff for a part-time legislature that would work for, basically, this employee would be in the executive branch, we're the legislative branch, and we would have supervisory duties over a different branch of government. That's my concern. We'd have to run that through legal, and I don't expect an answer right now, but I think could potentially be a problem. We're voting for pay and supervising the same position.
You don't supervise anyone.
That's what I was getting at.
So you don't ever have that.
We don't have the ability to supervise.
So it can't be a law position.
I know, I mean, and,
Supervise.
so that's my concern.
Mhm.
But my experience with the department heads is, whenever I have something that I need from them, even though they work for the mayor, they are more than willing to provide that information, work, service. So, that was my only concern is the city council supervising and tasking per se. We don't really task the department heads, but they're just so darn professional, they always help us.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It does, I just see that this is a big position, and I
Oh,
understand.
I'm not disagreeing with you, it's
Yeah.
just the supervisory aspect of it.
There would be nothing that would preclude the mayor or the council from approving a position that is supervised by the mayor, whose duties are to assist you in gleaning information from the department.
Yeah,
That's all I would like.
That's why I just wanted to clarify.
Councilman McCain?
But our department heads pretty much do that already. I can go to any department head and ask them anything, they'll give me whatever I need, or they'll do whatever I ask of them, because that's just the way our department heads are.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilman, Bundy?
so if you have one or two councilmen that wanna take a longer look at this, I'm okay with this, but could also, when we come back with this additional information, could you let us know, where the salary line's gonna come from? Does that make sense, where we plan on, because if it's gonna also do some work with, we just have various areas where the salary line would come from. I'm assuming it would take our current PR specialist and move that in there, but to turn this into a full-time job, we would need some additional funding, so that would be a good portion also, thank you.
Okay, so, all right, so then so do you want a department head, or do you just want it as like a supervisor, so that Tiff and I can get it graded with Brock's additions correctly?
I don't think it needs to be a department head, but
Okay.
I don't think it would get to a department.
No.
And I don't think a department head or supervisor really, somebody that sees
Position.
Yeah.
Okay.
work for Brock or you.
So for me to get that into the budget, I need a final decision. And I'm like super pushing it, the next council meeting, I have to have all that stuff published into the paper.
So can we get it graded by Ameriband with Brock's additions, sent out to you guys, and then you guys come in and talk to Tiffany, and then at least we'll put it on the next agenda for you guys to decide. That way you guys get a better synopsis of what your,
Yeah.
if it all
Works for
fits your
me.
criteria.
Yeah.
So can you also get with Tiffany and let her know, like, hey, I really like this, this, and this, and we'll see what we can do, and then with Brock's addition. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, Councilman.
Have we finalized our numbers for salaries yet? For this
No.
budget line?
Mr. Mayor, we got the numbers back from Ameriband today, and, Dave is working on it for us.
Okay.
So.
Do we know like the percentage increase?
It was 2% overall market, and it was based on the state overall had a 2.5, but because the city kept with the salary
Alright, discussion decision on recommendation of planning and zoning for an R4 with planned unit development, PUD and preliminary plat entitled 8th Street Station. Councilman? This is the 43 unit over where the movie theater used to be.
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan?
Since we're not part of planning and zoning, can't attend those meetings, could we have the, developer come forward?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
And you are?
I'm Harold Maxfield, we go my address and all that there.
Please.
1920 South Mayflower Way in Boise.
David Young, 1681 South Pool Way, Boise.
Alright, Councilman Brennan?
Yeah, I wanted to thank you for investing in the city, and I don't know exactly your particular role in the matter, probably the designers, is that right?
I'm the owner of the property. I've been the owner of the theater for the last few years, which has been an interesting experience. I try to pay attention to finances, and I mentioned to somebody earlier that a break-even month would have been a real highlight. First of all, the theater business is a tough business, and especially in smaller towns. And it just, I was losing a lot of money every month. So, in looking at some options, alternatives that would be good for the community, because that's the only reason I hung on for so long with the theater, was I knew the community wanted it, but it wasn't working. So,
Yes.
we're pretty excited about this option that we've come up with, we want to move forward with, and that is the townhouses on that location. It's a good location for it.
I wanted to tell you that I appreciate the plan where, you're not gonna allow just random parking on the inside loop of the neighborhood, and it's all dedicated parking spaces. So, the width of the road will accommodate for, not having trailers or cars, parked on the edge of that. And, as I understand, Brock, there was nobody that came forth in opposition to this plan,
Not to this plan, no.
in planning and zoning.
Nope.
We looked at several different alternatives as we were trying to come up with the site plan. We actually had one that had 48 units instead of the 43, but, it's just too tight. The one that allowed for some parking and some green space a little bit, so we think this is a good plan to move forward with.
Great. I hope you'll consider the xeriscaping with like a Central Park green space. I don't care about that. That's a great addition, but for the individual units, front yard xeriscaping would be fantastic.
For a majority of the units, the only green space we have is the center courtyard, where the top lot is, and then, some backyards on the northern portion of the property. We've got a storage building, being used by, D&B Supply, that is like a wall on the back end of that property, so we felt like we needed some kind of yard, some sort of buffer, where we've got the LDS Church on the west, and we've got a cottage or something. On the east, that provides some green space, we needed something for a buffer. It's only 88 feet wide. I think at 43 units, we're probably maybe doing 4 or 5 normal households worth of grass. So we're keeping it pretty tight, and then the rest of it will be trees and shrubs that will drip irrigate.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Councilman Bundy?
Yeah, I think those are great points, and I was just looking at here, I was gonna comment on the xeriscaping, where you come right off the road into your two-car garage. And I think another point here is, as we went with Thunderbolt in this, we have different types of developments based on where it is in town. This is a lot closer there to Fifth, and then right off Air Base Road, so I think its proximity for a little higher density is good for traffic. And I noticed in your plan where you've got your park and some of those things are run by the local HOA, and, so I think you do have some parkside neighbors, that the church there, and then the other side is citizens, so I think we're in good shape on this.
Anything else, council?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Bundy?
no other comments from the other councilmen. Recommend that we accept for planning, let's see, recommendation for planning and zoning, that we accept the request for the zone R4 with planned unit development PUD and preliminary planning out of 8th Street Station.
Second. Motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Bundy? Councilman Stokes? Councilman Brennan? Councilman Kane?
Aye.
All right, run down to discussion, decision, recommendation for planning and zoning for the zone R4 plan unit development, PUD, preliminary plat title Turner House Depot.
Where's that at?
Councilman, what do you got?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman
I
Bundy?
believe that is right next to the cheese factory, correct?
Correct. Don't press the marathon way.
Okay, that was the only point I wanted to make.
Okay. Mayor? Councilman Brennan?
Don't mind to have the developers come down?
Absolutely.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you. My name is Phil Weist, W-U-E-S-T. I'm with Gig Group in Vancouver, Washington, 502 Northeast 72nd Street, Vancouver, Washington, 98665. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have or describe the development. I also have our team here of engineers and designers.
Wow. Mayor?
Councilman Brennan?
This, I think this development is great. It'll bring a lot of housing fairly quickly. Sounds like you're gonna do it all in one foul swoop. Is that?
We'll do the subdivision all in one phase and then build it out as fast as the market will absorb the homes. And we think that'll happen pretty quickly, yeah.
Okay. And I was told in the planning and zoning stage, there was one public comment about increasing the size of the community center building.
I did hear that, just today. I'm not aware of the specific comment. I can't address the size of the community building.
In your PUD, you said a minimum of 3,000 square feet.
Yes. Yep.
With such a large development and so many people being in there, I'd like to ask you if you put it to a minimum of 5,000 square feet.
So on the size, and I think it's a reasonable request, but let me explain the reason for the current size. As it's currently sized, it sits right there on the corner. It has a lot of hardscape around it, and it also surrounded on both sides. It's got those Liverpool townhome units. And our thinking was that the hardscape surrounding the building was really a space that would become part of the building and integrated to the use of the building and the nearby Liverpool units. Additionally, with the size of the building, it's a 3,000 square foot footprint, but because of the height, there's an opportunity, if desired, to put in a mezzanine floor. We could put in another half a story that would take it up to 4,500 square feet to increase the usable space. And then I think most importantly, and I can have Mr. Mitchell address this, is really just how it scales with the rest of the development. The homes, as you know, are relatively small, and we feel like the building is currently designed and presented is in scale with the development, and something bigger might not fit in as well. So those were really the reasons. And I guess the final one is, this will be owned and maintained by the homeowners association. And our thought was that that building is a reasonable size for the types of events that might occur there. If you want to have reunions or birthday parties or other gatherings or get-togethers, it's a good size for that, without unduly burdening the HOA with the cost of maintaining and conditioning a larger building.
Okay.
So my preference would be to keep the minimum at 3,000 in the approval. We're certainly willing to consider going larger. We can continue that discussion with staff, but I'd rather not have 5,000 square foot minimum for the reasons I just stated.
Sure. Brock, would you mind speaking to that based on the comments at P&Z?
So at the Planning and Zoning Commission, it was a concern brought up. I believe it the applicant said this as well. But the building is a fairly tall building, and the applicant is saying that they will still have it meet that general form, but instead of having a second floor, which would be an extra 3,000, that it would only be 3,000 total just with that main floor, instead of the 6,000. I just confused everyone in this room. This development, so the way that we look at it, especially with our comprehensive plan and also our planned unit development code, is as a amenity. And I believe that this development has plenty of amenities, from the internal pathways to the live and work units, because that is a amenity. It's an opportunity for people to have neighborhood commercial very close by. You have pocket parks, you have the main community park, which after all components are installed that they actually want to dedicate to the city. So then that can be a valuable resource not only for that community specifically, but for that entire area of our city. You know, as far as the square footage, what staff would recommend, I believe we are in the ballpark when we speak about 3,000, 5,000, 6,000, 4,500. It would just be ultimately what you believe should be there.
Councilman Bundy?
Go back to your comments. It sounds like it's right now in the plan, it's a minimum of 3,000. And you stated before that you would be willing to take a look at it, so you could grow it a little bit. And one of the possible growths is the mezzanine floor, which would, in the same footprint, would give us another 1,500 square feet. So even within the footprint, you could increase it by 1,500 square feet. Or if you, I like the idea of you looking at it. I think at this point though, to change it from a minimum of 3,000, we might be a little bit ahead of ourselves. But if you guys, and Brock is very good about when we have him call you guys, he does. I'm okay with looking at a bigger one, but with a 3,000 foot minimum, so that you guys can plan.
Councilman Brennan?
Brock, what's the benefit of I forget the term you use, dedicating their community park to the city rather than keeping it in their HOA?
So when it's within the HOA, that is a private space.
Sure.
Which means that the HOA group, which we know that in Mountain Home, HOAs have not always been terribly successful. Staff is working with applicants to ensure that they have a very different destiny than the ones that have lacked prior. Dedicating it makes sure that the city knows that this is one asset that is going to be taken care of and can be enjoyed by all Mountain Home citizens. And it's not exclusive to that community. If they do not dedicate it, they can call that private, and it's only for residents only. I see a great benefit with some of the neighborhoods nearby by having another dedicated green space, especially one that has certain components that they want to add. They want to do a community amphitheater, they want to have shaded areas. There is a benefit there. I believe that we need to work very hard with Parks and Rec to make sure that this is something that they are able to take on. But prior to the final plat, because this is the preliminary plat, we're gonna have a final plat come. Those are all certain specifics that we will be able to finalize and make sure. But I personally believe that there is value of having a park which is constructed completely. I wouldn't suggest that the city take it right now with it just being sagebrush. Make them put in the grass, make them put in all of the components, and then we'll take the nice brand new park and take care of it.
So that doesn't come from the final plat. It comes when the neighborhood's developed, they'll say, here you go, you can have it. Is that the stage?
With the final plat, we are going to specify what that transition looks like.
When does like the actual HOA, I mean, he's probably the owner of the HOA now or the development, but the homeowners themselves, what if they decide that they want it to be an exclusive park for their residents?
Right now, until the final plat is approved, that's the landowner, and that's the sole landowner. So he can create any sort of policies and or practices right now without the say to anyone, because he hasn't sold anything to anyone. He can't sell anything to anyone until the final plat is finalized. So it's really up to the applicant and comprehensive plan also speaks about private property rights, and those are in his purview to do so.
Mayor.
Councilman McCain?
He's definitely right. He has the full right to do whatever he wants to with that park right now until after he starts selling properties and his HOA is set up completely. But Miguel, do we have the manpower to continue to take care of another pocket park for the rest of our lives?
Probably not. We'd have to increase our seasonal or, eventually phase into another full-time guy. And it would be nice to get it all done landscaped, irrigated. We don't have time for that right now, so.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't even think about taking it without everything already in it. Cause there was not enough benefit just for a pocket park there to have, we got enough pocket parks. But this has benefits in it to where if that's the case, that makes it a little different story.
So my only concern is I don't mind the pocket park and the walk space, but everything around it, that looks like a lot.
Mayor, just to clarify, the only thing that they are proposing on dedicating is that main parkway.
Okay.
Everything else is maintained by the HOA.
This is the only thing.
So we keep on saying pocket parks, and there are 2 pocket parks, but that's not what they're proposing.
Okay.
Just the main
Yeah.
green space, which
This
is
is the
right in the northeast corner.
Yeah.
Perfect.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, council members, this was also addressed in the draft development agreement with the city in terms of development of the park and delivering of certain defined amenities.
I thought I just read something in there in the planning and zoning package about it, yeah.
Alrighty, Councilman, anything else for Phil? Thank you, Phil.
Welcome, thank you.
Appreciate it. Alright, Councilman.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Stokes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation for planning and zoning for the zone R4 with a planned unit development and preliminary plat entitled Turner House Depot.
Second. Motion and second, I'll call for the question. Councilman Bundy? Aye. Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan? Aye. Alright. Going down to item number 7, and I apologize to the department heads at the last council meeting for ending so abruptly. So
Guess
we'll go,
what?
We'll go really quick around the room. We'll start out with Jake.
I don't really have anything, just trying to maintain the course through the heat right now, so. There was, we have 140 kids out there for a junior tournament today, and they'll be right back tomorrow too, so. Just plugging along.
Brock?
I'm just happy to be here now. What just happened was you approved preliminarily approximately 500 new dwelling units that can be built in Mountain Home. And there are 500 products that are very different than anything our market has ever experienced. That is going to provide that missing middle housing. And it's a good thing. We need to pay attention to water. Me and Rich talk about it every single day. And I believe that for the limited resources that we do have, that was a fantastic investment. And I know that we're gonna have more coming towards us. And because of this, for every household, that's 2.5 people, and if you wanna round up, that's 3. So that's 1,500 new residents that can potentially come to Mountain Home. Those are people who currently own homes here in Mountain Home and maybe wanna move into one of these new products. Maybe someone wants to downsize and move into a townhome. Maybe there's someone who has had their home-based business and now they get to go into a live-work unit and take it that much farther. So I applaud you on those efforts. I thank you for that. It's been a long time coming, and I'm just happy with that. Other than that, things are going great. Dutch Bros is going to have their grand opening next week. Everything is going well with Grocery Outlet. And there's other development that is going to hopefully happen on that hill. We're doing some lot line changes to ensure that there is enough space for future tenants. And hopefully I'll have some more good news for you at the next council meeting.
Shirley?
We had the second alfalfa harvest last week. This week we're concentrating on monitoring wells because we have those DEQ tests to get done. That's about it.
Doris?
We're in the 6th week of summer programming. So we're over the halfway point of the summer. I can't believe it. We're moving forward with fall programming. This past weekend we had a pretty awesome event, the Splash and Dash. First ever holding any kind of event like that. It was a little fun run for all kinds of youth participants, and we had 90 kids sign up, so you add their parents, grandparents, so there's probably 300 people there at Legacy for that. So I was pretty proud of my staff for making that a success.
Mr. Mayor? Can I have a question for Darcy? Real quick? Your staff works hard, because I saw them at 6:40 a.m. that morning and helped them load a cooler
Yes.
into the truck. Did you run out of ice cream? That's all I want to know.
Nope, we still have leftovers.
All right.
I met her in the parking lot, she had a shopping cart full of ice cream.
So to add on, if you don't all know, this month is National Ice Cream Month and National Parks and Recreation Month, and so that's what I guess brought on this big event, is to celebrate us.
Councilman
I know my
Stephen
granddaughter
Lopez,
lives
wouldn't
there.
you? Miguel?
Focusing on irrigation, and we got a couple special events coming up, so we'll be helping out with those.
Chief?
Oh, we got a new lieutenant starting August 2nd. Got a new administrative assistant who's in training now. We have 3 conditional offer employments starting on officers to come to work for us. So we're hoping to be fully staffed by the end of the summer. So mostly we're doing that and the continuing education training. So Lieutenant Larson's doing a great job keeping up with all the training and recruiting.
So your officers, I appreciate their work. I've seen the pass-ons and the calls. You guys are up over, what, 600 calls from year to date? So
Been
tell them
busy.
that they're doing good work, and I know from the prosecutors, they've been doing a great job as well. So tell them it doesn't go unnoticed, we appreciate it.
Will do. Thanks.
David?
Hey, working downtown, got a couple things left there. Be out on 3rd Street replacing some hydrants, we got 4 of those to go. Get those done and trying to get everything going good.
Gene? You're up, Gene. Gene, you're up. He's not here. I gotta beat him up a little bit. I'll get to
I
Rich.
have a question for Gene.
Right?
Yeah.
We'll let Rich answer that. All right, Shasta.
We just ended our summer reading program. It was a 6-week-long program. We had 453 kids sign up for that.
Wow.
They read 1,500 and minutes, and then they also read 5,000 books within that 6-week period. So I'm proud of them. And then we also, I just got an email today. We got our grant that I applied for from the American Rescue Plan Act. So that's $3,000 towards laptops and mobile hotspots to help with career development and schooling.
Fantastic, good job. Chief.
Mayor, Council, just real quick here, I'll just address the 4th of July. Everything went well there. I think overall the community experienced a really good show. I want to give a shout out to the other things. Fire department gets the glory of the thing, but it's really a group effort with everybody here. We've got the streets department involved. We've got parks. We have the police department. We have the golf course. Jake and his crew. So it takes everybody. There's unsung heroes there with that. So appreciate all that. Had a good time over there at the Splash and Dash thing.
Yes.
The new recruits we had over there doing that.
They were
It was great
amazing.
fun.
They had a blast.
Yeah,
It's
and it
pretty
seemed like it was great to see that.
showering the kids as they ran by.
Yes, that
I don't think it blew too many off their feet, but
That was a lot of fun. Fire calls we're being fortunate so far, but they are around. We were a little active this weekend, but didn't lose anything in the way of property to amount to anything for a large loss. Exciting time for the fire department. We've got new personnel on, getting new blood infused into the department. It's exciting. They're invigorated. It invigorates people that are there. And we're growing, and we intend to be opening a hiring process in the near future again, and try to grow to our capacity, full capacity. So good things.
Hey, Craig's back, so code enforcement will start happening again. I'm super excited for the plans for this new development to come up. Can't wait to start seeing the buildings and what they're doing. It's gonna be great. CBH Hubble and even Liberty, they're cranking them out like nonstop. It's very busy. So it's good.
Rich. Mayor and Council, if you drive around, you see a lot of streets, a lot of things tore up, so kind of update there. On 3rd Street, we're on pace. We lowered all of the sewer lids and the water valves, and Dave said, like you said, they've been moving, getting some fire hydrants moved. They fixed all of the water lines that need to be fixed before we put everything together. So they've been really busy over there. It's been hot. So I mean, they've been working hard, and they come back beat. And so I just want to thank those guys for doing that. So, and we're on schedule to be able to get that paved when Sunrock comes and does the downtown. So sometime beginning of August is kind of where it's, August-ish beginning. That's kind of the plan where we're gonna start. You'll start seeing some paving happening either at 3rd or downtown. Just depends on how that's kind of gonna go. So downtown, concrete. Pretty much got all of on the first 2 blocks have all the regular concrete put in now. So you'll probably start seeing the colored sections coming in here this week. That's where they kind of are on that. On all the curves are coming in, and then they'll start. They've been tearing up the first 2 blocks. And so once they get those done, they'll start moving down to there. So, all the power for all the street lights and everything. So it's looking good downtown. So I'm excited to get that going.
Let's talk about URA and all those sidewalks.
Yeah, so URA, we're gonna basically from Railroad Park all the way to the west side or the east side of 3rd Street's gonna have new sidewalks for the most part. And that's been like a 3-year process with a lot of those too, and ADA ramps and everything. And so they pitched in another, I think the total's gonna be, when they're totally done, almost a little over $600,000 this year, putting in to finish up some of the sidewalks that we have going on. Now some of them, the last piece of them, we probably won't get done until after Air Force Appreciation Day. I told them not to rip that last section off until we're kind of done, but a lot of it's gonna be, everything is gonna get repaid, it's gonna be done, and so it'll look nice downtown. I mean, they were great partners in doing a lot of stuff, so.
Miguel, did you have something for the council on URA?
Oh, they're gonna pay for our winding walkway through Railroad Park and gazebo.
The tune of
$130,000.
And off of that, that's kind of where that's coming from, is that last block of Railroad Park, ITD is going to rip out that and straighten it out so that bike path that ends at 2nd will keep going all the way to go under Vendor Pass, where it is. So you'll see that straightened out, so it's gonna move closer towards the old water fountain that's right there, and it doesn't impede on it. It actually can, we'll fit when we do that later, but that's where we've talked about that. So from the new ADA ramp to the old one, the winding sidewalk. So yeah, it's exciting. Lots of, I can't wait to get this project over. I mean, it's great partners with everybody. I mean, that we've had there. So
Speaking of the end of the project, I was just curious, is Guho ahead of schedule right now?
They're ahead or right on it. I mean, there's a lot of little moving parts with adding the extra sidewalks in there. So they're pushing. So, and Pusher's doing the sidewalks, so we're pushing them. So it's
circular half circle benches on the left side.
Yes, that is on there. Anthony has those on there. We did put a couple temporary benches there on 2nd Street, the metal ones that are like on Main Street that are actually once the new benches come in, those will move over back across the street. But people were sitting on some of the different businesses sitting in their window sills. So we just took a couple of those benches down there to be there temporarily. So no, that's on there, and that's we're getting those.
And then Chief, did you have something from URA as well?
Yeah, it sure did. The URA contributed $50,000 towards the restoration of our flying fire truck. You might notice that that's not up there right now. We've got it down and gonna get that painted up. And we're gonna make that park into kind of a history of the fire department. We're gonna pay homage to the firefighters that were there before. We've got history back to 1908. So we're gonna recognize all the past firefighters, current firefighters, and have space to do that to add for future firefighters. So it should be an interesting place to go and check out, and we intend to grow and expand on different ideas with that. So it's great to partner with URA on that.
Paula?
Mayor and council, we're doing the final of the budget. We had a meeting last Monday? No, that's a holiday. Tuesday. Working with the department heads. We're just about done. The revenue from the state's coming in good. Haven't had any hiccups there. In fact, we may have a little bit extra because the state of Idaho is booming. We all know that. And we're gonna try to incorporate something over with Mark's fire truck in the fall. So maybe have a little event down there and think that one of our focal points, something new. And if you don't know, the Festival of Beer is coming up, and if you wanna volunteer for a great event, now's your chance.
Yeah, free beer, right?
Free beer, yeah, if you volunteer, you get free beer. We have a website with, 21 of ours. It's on the website. So just go on there, sign up Genius, and pick a shift. It's a great event, and we give back to like the forest. So all those funds go back into our community.
Tiff?
Mayor and council, hard to believe it, I've been at this spot for a little over a month now. It's been really fast, believe it or not. But we're looking at doing some supervisor training and some different trainings through iCrimp here in the near future. And then just continue to support staff and departments as we move forward.
Councilman?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Bundy?
I'm glad Rich brought it up. I was gonna mention when you drive through town, you see a lot of the folks out there working, and every time I stop and roll my window down and give them a thumbs up, they seem really pleased to take a break and say hello to me.
Walk up and let the air conditioning kick in.
But also on the downtown project, I was down there talking to a lot of the stores, not everyone, but a bunch of them down there, and they appreciate all that's going on and the fact that you're on schedule. And I told them I would talk to you, make sure that we keep putting out on our economic development that they're open, that a lot of them have entrances in the back, and there's some parking in the back, if parking's not real available in the front, just to make sure that everybody knows that those businesses are still fully open and functioning, and support from Duhall and everything else has been great, so thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Brennan?
Hank, I was gonna ask you, you kinda cut off some of my comments, but you talked about Craig coming back and code enforcement beginning again. It's time, and I was curious about the other position that was funded for you. Are you moving forward to hire that?
Those funds are, I believe, going to the public relations person.
Oh, there's some code talk here. What?
We talked about that position for Brock. And we were working at it, trying to figure out something, but we'll bring out something different, we'll bring it back. So if you would prefer them to go ahead and try to hire someone real fast, we can do that, and we can figure out the minutia with Brock's stuff, I can do that as well. Wanna hire?
Do we need that part-time position for, cause this other one's only a few $1,000 increase, isn't it? Yeah, I don't have it on me at this very moment. But- So do we still have the funds in the budget to proceed with a part-time?
Yep.
Yeah, let's proceed with it.
See, good, we'll open it back up.
All right.
Councilman McGee.
It was already out once, why was it pulled?
It wasn't, it just closed. Yeah, I think Daniel said we had one applicant over the weekend.
Okay, cause I know that I looked into it and whatnot, and this was just 3 weeks ago, and that was supposed to be started.
Yeah, we had to go out, we had to make modifications to the job specification, so we did that, and then we posted it. And we did end up with one applicant over the weekend.
Give him a call.
I will.
Councilman Brennan.
Question for legal. Can a city police officer get a part-time job as a code enforcement officer? In addition to?
No.
Can I hold both? Well, we need somebody aggressive.
Yeah.
Or
To the extent of code violations, a violation of the city ordinance, and that city ordinance violation is a misdemeanor infraction, it's totally within the capability or the ability of the city police officer to enforce that. So they're not precluded from doing it. Could they do it in addition to their duties? That's up to y'all.
We'd have to pay them at their preclusion. city rate, right, instead of the code enforcement rate, right?
Well, yeah, if I'm an on-duty police officer, and it's, 2 in the morning and nothing's going on, the last drunk has gotten away with driving home, then I could start at least, and again, it's a priority made by the mayor and this council as to what enforcement priority the police.
I can see a problem with that now that I think about it, like court time, if they plead not guilty, gotta go to court.
Yeah, I mean, so, cause half of those folks are probably gonna fight the ticket, now we're.
But has there been any thought, I don't know, this is a wild thought here, can code enforcement move to the police department? In terms of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like, maybe a more aggressive approach at getting it done?
So what we've decided at our executive leadership team is that, Chief Connors is allowed, so what they'll do is they'll go out, take the picture, send the address to Craig, and then Craig, that way we have more eyes, they're out there in the streets, they can snap a photo, make sure it's time stamped, send it to Craig, and then Craig writes a letter to help expedite Craig right now, to catch him back up.
Okay.
Mayor,
Councilman McCain.
we looked at that when I first came about code enforcement going to the police department, but at the time, council and myself even looked at it as the police had enough to do without them worrying about weeds. So that's why we came back to the building department.
Even if it's their own position, under the leadership of the police chief, not a police officer?
Well, they were gonna hire a person for code enforcement for the police department, but they decided that that really wasn't the best thing to have in that situation, that they want somebody separate from the police department doing that, rather than the police riding around, taking pictures and sending citations in.
Well, this will just be them taking a photo.
Right, taking a photo and
Address, send it off Craig.
Right.
For right now, until we get to that person, so we'll look at that guy tomorrow.
Sounds great.
Or girl, or whoever it is.
You got it.
Ms. Frank?
One last thing, and Darcy, you already talked about it, I just wanted to say, I've got a little 7-year-old in the adventure camp, and she loves every day of it, and comes home exhausted and falls asleep, and it's such a great program. I hope that we can just continue to expand that throughout the years. You're doing a great job.
Ms. Mayor, I wanna just talk about 3 things. Growth, we just approved 450 units, so growth is coming here. Speaking on that public relations and the council specialist, I say that because in my off time, I have taken on rewriting the animal ordinance for the city. Just a passion of mine. I reached out to Councilman TJ Thompson from Boise, got a draft. There'll be skeleton of that on the mayor, legal, chief of police, animal shelter, and the Animal Welfare League of Elmore County. Okay, there'll be a little tweak though. And I wanted to, had a question on our garbage cans. Did we ever reach out to Republic?
So we did, and we're getting the mock-ups, but all those cans are out of Public Works right now. Cool. Except for 2, those 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Do they look good?
Concrete ones? Yeah. Cause we don't know where to place them now, so we have all brand new cans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Cool.
All right,
One more comment, Mayor.
go ahead, Councilman.
I want to thank Darcy and Mark for their thing with the splash and dash, that the kids did love sitting in the truck with headphones and whatnot, and sliding down and going through the foam and everything else over there. I know that my granddaughter was down there to where, so, and she just happened to get here in time to be able to sign up for it, to where they had a ball. Stuff like that really is great.
So in closing really quick, gentlemen, growth needs to pay for itself. It should be on the backs of the citizens, so obviously you'll see the fees and things of that you guys already approved. I appreciate you for doing that. The rail line, we're going to go to Prineville. They do a phenomenal job. We're gonna have their subject matter expert come down here as well, try to help us. It's my big push that cities of our size, if we don't ask for help, we always gonna fail, right? And I have no problem asking for help from subject matter experts, so they're gonna be a part of the, helping us get that rail line up and running. Director Keeley, Commerce Director of the state of Idaho, will be down Wednesday. He wants to come check out the city's broadband and all that good stuff, the Wi-Fi. We're actually, as you saw, we're going out for another CARES Act grant, which is great. And I appreciate you for allowing us to go out for all these grants. People always ask, hey Mayor, how are you getting all these projects done? How are you guys doing it? I'm gonna tell you, it's free money. We're going out after grants. We've done over $6 million in the last probably 4.5 years, 5 years. And it's due to these guys up here going, you know what, they see it, they get it, and especially Jamie McDaniel, that poor girl. We had an executive leadership team meeting with her there and said, hey, what other grants can we go out for? And she's like, I'm maxed. So we're all as a team going to help her to try to acquire more grants. So she's been killing it. She's been doing a great job. So if you see her, tell her thank you. That's a lot of money for Mountain Home, and a lot of people don't understand that you know, we're always going to look for it and keep going after it. Other than that, I appreciate you guys. Especially housing is needed. We always talk about what do we leak. What's our biggest economic export we leak is our children. And Doyle, you're spot on. We leak our children and try to get them back. And I think tonight shows you that these 4 gentlemen up here want to try to get our kids to come back, live, work, and play. So with that, I appreciate it. And then we'll get out of here. Meeting adjourned.
Right, Bryce, did you bring the shovel? We can start digging.